Welcome back to ABCGH Spoilers channel. Today we will learn about the explosive family dynamics unfolding in Port Charles that have viewers glued to their screens. The potential reshaping of multiple relationships in Port Charles hangs in the balance as this dramatic triangle approaches its inevitable implosion. Fans across social media platforms remain divided in their loyalties, with passionate debates erupting daily about whether Willow should trust her mother's instincts or continue forging her own path with Drew. The question that keeps viewers on the edge of their seats is whether Willow will recognize Drew's manipulative behavior before irreparable damage is done to her relationship with Nina, or if Nina's protective actions will only serve to alienate her daughter further. What makes this storyline particularly compelling is the psychological complexity underlying each character's motivations. Drew's behavior suggests deeper issues than mere vindictiveness. Perhaps unresolved trauma from his past captivity or lingering resentment over previous Port Charles power dynamics. His calculated approach to driving a wedge between mother and daughter reveals a strategic mind capable of long-term emotional manipulation, making him one of the show's most nuanced antagonists in recent memory. The confrontation at Drew's residence last week perfectly encapsulated the volatile emotions at play. When Carly Corinthos burst in, nearly coming to physical blows with Willow before Jason Morgan's timely intervention, viewers witnessed the expanding ripple effects of this conflict. Willow's defiant stance against all parties, including her mother, demonstrated her growing independence while simultaneously highlighting her potential vulnerability to Drew's influence. Nina's facial expression during this scene, a complex mixture of heartbreak and something more ominous, foreshadowed the dramatic developments now unfolding. Industry insiders have hinted at a potential game-changing revelation involving Nina and Portia Robinson. The rumored existence of incriminating evidence against Drew, specifically a recording that could expose his true nature and possible blackmail attempts targeting Willow, adds another explosive layer to this already volatile situation. The strategic deployment of such evidence could vindicate Nina's concerns but might simultaneously destroy her relationship with her daughter if Willow perceives it as manipulation rather than protection. Nina Reeves has consistently demonstrated the lengths she'll go to protect those she loves, often at significant personal cost. Her maternal instincts, while sometimes overwhelming to Willow, come from a place of genuine concern based on her life experiences and keen observation of Drew's behavior. Her warning about Willow jeopardizing her custody case by severing ties with Monica wasn't merely interference but reflected legitimate legal concerns that Willow, blinded by her feelings for Drew, has dismissed too quickly. Drew Quartermain's psychological warfare against Nina has escalated to alarming levels in recent episodes. His deliberate provocations, flaunting his relationship with Willow in Nina's presence and openly mocking her concerns, reveal a calculated cruelty that goes beyond typical romantic rivalry. The smug satisfaction he displayed while taunting Nina about her supposed jealousy demonstrated his true character, positioning himself as Willow's protector while simultaneously painting Nina as irrationally possessive. This classic manipulation tactic has effectively isolated Willow from her support system, making her increasingly dependent on Drew exactly as he intended. The tension between mother and daughter has reached unprecedented levels, with Nina struggling to maintain her composure as Drew systematically undermines her relationship with Willow. Their most recent interaction showcased Nina practically vibrating with barely contained emotion as she attempted to warn Willow about the potential consequences of her decisions. "You're risking everything by cutting ties with Monica," she cautioned, her voice trembling with genuine concern. But Willow's dismissive response only deepened the growing chasm between them, exactly as Drew had orchestrated. Port Charles residents are already taking sides in this escalating conflict. Longtime characters with connections to both women find themselves caught in the crossfire, forced to choose between supporting Nina's protective instincts or respecting Willow's autonomy. This community-wide division mirrors the passionate debate among viewers, with social media platforms flooded with arguments supporting both perspectives. The hashtags #TeamNina and #TeamWillow trend regularly after each explosive episode, demonstrating how deeply this storyline has resonated with the audience. The psychological toll on Nina cannot be overstated. Watching her daughter potentially being manipulated by a man she believes harbors ulterior motives has pushed her emotional resilience to its breaking point. Mental health experts who analyze soap opera narratives have noted that Nina's character is displaying classic signs of acute stress response, hypervigilance, emotional volatility, and increasingly desperate attempts to control an uncontrollable situation. When a character with Nina's history of emotional intensity reaches such a breaking point, the resulting explosion rarely leaves relationships intact. The jealousy-fueled triangle between Nina, Drew, and Willow represents one of General Hospital's most psychologically nuanced storylines in recent seasons. Unlike typical soap opera love triangles, this conflict delves into deeper themes of maternal protection, manipulation, and the complex dynamics between adult children and their parents. The writers have masterfully crafted a situation where viewers can empathize with both Nina's protective instincts and Willow's desire for independence, creating a moral ambiguity that elevates the narrative beyond typical daytime drama fare. As tensions continue to escalate, viewers are left wondering what form Nina's inevitable breaking point will take. Will she opt for a public confrontation, perhaps at the Metro Court where maximum witnesses would ensure Drew's exposure? Or might she choose a more calculated approach, strategically releasing evidence of his manipulation to those whose opinions Willow values most? Whatever path she chooses, the consequences will undoubtedly reverberate throughout Port Charles for months to come, potentially altering the show's relationship landscape permanently. The mother-daughter drama between Nina Reeves and Willow Corinthos has reached unprecedented levels of intensity as Drew Quartermaine continues his deliberate campaign to drive them apart. What began as a simple romantic relationship has evolved into a psychological chess match with Willow's well-being as the ultimate prize. Nina's mounting frustration and increasing desperation to protect her daughter from what she perceives as manipulation has created the perfect conditions for an explosive confrontation that promises to be one of General Hospital's most memorable moments this season. Next, we will learn about the complex dynamics unfolding in Port Charles, where justice seems to have its own unique interpretation and family loyalties create fascinating moral dilemmas for our beloved characters. In the world of Port Charles, the concept of crime and punishment follows its own peculiar logic. The show consistently portrays certain characters as justified in their actions, regardless of legality. This pattern has become increasingly evident with the Corinthos family and their associates, who seem to operate under a different set of rules than other characters. Take Sonny Corinthos, for example. Over 3 decades, he has accumulated an impressive list of unpunished transgressions. The writers have masterfully crafted countless scenarios where Sonny's actions, though technically illegal, are presented as necessary or even heroic. The audience has been conditioned to accept these justifications, creating a fascinating dichotomy between legal and moral justice in the show's universe. This selective justice extends to Sonny's inner circle. Remember the fascinating storyline involving Carly and Drew's insider trading scandal? When Nina exposed their financial misconduct, she was portrayed as the villain, a troublemaker intent on causing problems. The show's narrative emphasized that since Carly and Drew didn't actually profit from their actions, they couldn't possibly be considered guilty. Nina's revelation was framed as malicious rather than truthful, an interesting commentary on how the show values loyalty over legal correctness. Similarly, when Ava brought Alexis's perjury to light, the audience was guided to view this as an attack rather than a legitimate exposure of wrongdoing. Alexis, consistently characterized as Port Charles's moral compass despite her occasional lapses, was positioned as the victim. The show's messaging was clear: Ava wasn't upholding justice, she was vindicatively framing Alexis. This narrative choice reveals much about how the writers prioritize certain characters' reputations over consistent moral standards. Now we arrive at Christina's current predicament, which follows this established pattern perfectly. Her recent actions, attempting to sabotage Ava's car by cutting the brakes, resulted in unintended victims when Rick and Elizabeth ended up in the targeted vehicle instead. Rather than focusing on the premeditated nature of this potentially deadly act, Christina is desperately trying to convince Lucky, Rick, and Ava that her intentions absolve her of responsibility. The fascinating aspect of Christina's defense lies in its familiar logic. She believes Ava deserves punishment for supposedly causing Christina to lose her baby. Despite court rulings to the contrary and questions surrounding whether the baby was actually Christina's, she has formed her own conclusions, what we might call Corinthos conclusions. In the Corinthos worldview, personal judgment supersedes legal verdicts, creating a self-contained justice system where family members determine guilt and appropriate punishment. Christina's reasoning follows a twisted but internally consistent logic. If Ava caused her to lose her child, then Ava deserves to lose her own daughter, Avery, who happens to be Christina's half-sister. The most direct path to this outcome, in Christina's mind, was ensuring Avery lost her mother permanently. This chilling calculation demonstrates how deeply embedded the Corinthos approach to justice has become in the younger generation. The fact that Rick and Elizabeth became unintended victims is treated as merely an unfortunate mistake, a misunderstanding that shouldn't result in serious consequences. This perspective highlights the show's tendency to minimize certain characters' culpability while maximizing others. Had another character committed the same act against a Corinthos family member, we can imagine the storyline would unfold very differently. This pattern of selective justice creates a fascinating moral landscape in Port Charles. Viewers are presented with a world where intention often outweighs action, where family loyalty trumps legal obligations, and where certain characters receive narrative protection regardless of their choices. The writers have crafted a universe where the audience is subtly guided to accept these inconsistencies as part of the show's internal logic. The psychological complexity of characters like Christina becomes particularly interesting in this context. She has internalized the family's approach to justice so completely that she sees nothing fundamentally wrong with taking matters into her own hands. Her current predicament, facing potential consequences for actions she genuinely believes were justified, creates dramatic tension precisely because it challenges the established pattern of Corinthos family immunity. What makes General Hospital's approach to morality particularly compelling is how it reflects real-world tendencies to judge actions differently based on who performs them. The show has created a microcosm where viewers can observe this human tendency played out in heightened, dramatic scenarios. Whether intentional or not, this creates a fascinating commentary on how we all sometimes apply different standards to those we care about versus those we don't. As this storyline continues to unfold, viewers are left wondering, will Christina face genuine consequences, or will the pattern hold? Will the show's writers continue to reinforce the idea that certain characters operate above conventional justice, or might this incident mark a turning point? These questions keep audiences engaged, debating not just what will happen next, but what should happen next according to both Port Charles logic and real-world morality. The brilliance of soap opera storytelling lies in its ability to maintain these moral ambiguities across decades, creating rich character histories that inform current actions. As we continue to follow Christina's journey, we're not just watching a single storyline, we're witnessing the continuation of a complex moral universe that has been developing since before many viewers were born. Next, we will learn about the intriguing developments surrounding Jordan Ashford's dangerous new mission and the complex web of alliances forming in Port Charles. Let's dive into this captivating storyline that could change the landscape of our beloved town forever. The dangerous undercover mission. Will Jordan Ashford survive her perilous mission to take down Jen Sidwell? This question hangs in the balance as the former police commissioner turned deputy mayor contemplates a return to her undercover roots. Jordan's decision to infiltrate Sidwell's organization places her directly in the crosshairs of one of Port Charles's most dangerous emerging threats. The stakes couldn't be higher for Jordan as she navigates this treacherous terrain. Having previously survived dangerous undercover operations, including her extended infiltration of the Jerome crime family years ago, Jordan possesses the skills necessary for such delicate work. However, Sidwell represents an entirely different caliber of adversary, calculating, ruthless, and extraordinarily well-connected. Laura Collins, as mayor, finds herself in an impossible position regarding this operation. Her personal history with Sidwell, particularly concerning what he did to her son Lucky Spencer, creates a significant emotional barrier that prevents her from approaching this situation objectively. This personal vendetta could potentially compromise city leadership if Jordan's cover is blown, as it would appear the mayor's office is collaborating with Sonny Corinthos against Sidwell, a political nightmare waiting to happen. The Sidwell dynasty expands. The arrival of Marco Sidwell in Port Charles represents a masterful strategic move in his father's grand scheme. By securing employment with the prestigious law firm of Alexis Davis and Diane Miller, Marco has positioned himself perfectly to access sensitive information about Sonny Corinthos' business and personal affairs. This infiltration demonstrates the sophisticated nature of Sidwell's approach to conquering Port Charles. Rather than relying solely on brute force, the Sidwell organization employs subtle manipulation and strategic placement of assets. Marco's legal position provides a veneer of legitimacy while allowing him to gather intelligence that could prove devastating to Sonny's operations. Alexis and Diane, two of Port Charles's most astute legal minds, remain completely unaware of their new employee's true identity and purpose. This blind spot could prove costly not only to them professionally but to their longtime client and friend, Sonny Corinthos. The information flowing from their offices directly to Sidwell creates a vulnerability that even Sonny's extensive security measures cannot address. Jordan's undercover operation may ultimately serve multiple purposes, potentially exposing not only Jen Sidwell's criminal enterprises but also unmasking Marco's deceptive presence within the heart of Port Charles's legal community. A web of dangerous alliances. The situation grows increasingly complex with Drew Kane's unexpected alignment with Sidwell. Drew's targeting of Sonny Corinthos creates a dangerous new dynamic in the power struggle for control of Port Charles. This alliance between Drew and Sidwell represents a formidable challenge to both Sonny's territory and potentially to the city government itself. Laura Collins finds herself navigating a political minefield as these factions maneuver for advantage. Her awareness of Drew's vendetta against Sonny places her in a precarious position. If Jordan's undercover work on Laura's behalf is discovered, it could create the appearance that the mayor's office is inappropriately taking sides in what amounts to a turf war between criminal enterprises. The question remains whether Jordan can successfully gather enough evidence to expose both Sidwell and Drew before their plans come to fruition. Jordan's extensive law enforcement background provides her with unique skills for this mission, but Sidwell's resources and Drew's determination make them formidable opponents. Jordan's personal stakes. For Jordan Ashford, this mission represents more than just fulfilling her duties as deputy mayor. There's an undeniable excitement in returning to undercover work, a world she navigated successfully for years before transitioning to more public roles in law enforcement and now city government. This assignment allows Jordan to utilize her specialized skill set while maintaining distance from a permanent return to law enforcement. The adrenaline rush of covert operations combined with the noble purpose of protecting Port Charles creates a compelling motivation for Jordan to accept this dangerous assignment. However, Jordan must carefully balance her personal satisfaction with the very real dangers this mission presents. Sidwell has demonstrated his ruthlessness repeatedly, and if he discovers Jordan's true purpose, the consequences could be deadly. Jordan's previous undercover work with the Jerome organization provided valuable experience, but Sidwell operates on a different level of sophistication and brutality. The fate of Port Charles hangs in balance. The confrontation brewing between these powerful factions will inevitably reshape Port Charles. Sidwell's determination to claim his portion of the city, regardless of the cost, threatens the fragile peace that has existed in recent months. His willingness to employ both overt force and subtle manipulation makes him particularly dangerous. Jordan's undercover operation represents perhaps the best hope for preventing Sidwell from achieving his territorial ambitions. By gathering evidence from within his organization, she might provide Laura with the legal ammunition needed to counter Sidwell through legitimate channels, avoiding the bloodshed that would inevitably accompany a direct confrontation between Sidwell and Sonny. The question remains whether Jordan can maintain her cover long enough to accomplish this mission. With Marco potentially feeding information to his father and Drew's alliance with Sidwell strengthening, the window of opportunity may be closing rapidly. Jordan's experience and determination will be tested as never before as she attempts to outmaneuver an adversary who has demonstrated both patience and cunning in his approach to conquering Port Charles.